Atiya ma'am, over to you.
Good afternoon. Welcome from Ratnasagar. I'm Atiya Zaidi, the publisher, and here with me are our colleagues, the managing director, Mr. Sugat Jain, the regional manager, Mr. Sunil Saraf, Mr. Rajiv Sharma, marketing manager, and Mr. Sharma and Mr. Sunil Saraf. And this is, I just wanted to, I'm presuming that we all understand Hindi up to Maharashtra. So there's this something he wrote many years ago, I think during the emergency, I'm not sure, which feels very relevant today. Just a couple of lines from him. हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए. पीर here means पीड़ा, pain. हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए. इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. So this evolving paradigms is an effort to not a Ganga, but at least some little fountain, some little stream, where we are groping, we are struggling to see what to do, where to go, and how to handle this once in a lifetime, once in two lifetimes situation. So Amita ma'am is there to guide us. She's I don't have to introduce her. Anybody have called from Jammu to Kerala, they know Dr. Amita Mula Vatal. She's a rock star, I would say, or what should I say, the Amitabh Bachchan of education. So I would invite her to take the panel and start the program. I will close again with Dushyant Kumar's 2 lines. The purpose of these series of webinars, we already had 4. We had North India 2, we had East India, and we had 1 in South India, and we have 2 more after this. So the line which I'll close with is, "Sirf hangama khada karna mera maqsad nahi." This is from Ratnasagar. Maqsad means purpose. Ratnasagar, we at Ratnasagar feel, सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, सारी कोशिश है कि ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. अमिता जी.
Right. Thank you. I'm here. Firstly, I'd like to say that the rock stars are the panelists. All the panelists who have been here forever. I mean, this is probably our 5th one, Atiya, if I may say that. Fifth webinar.
Yes,
right. And it has been amazing, the quality of principles, the kind of conversations that people have been having has been such an intense learning experience for me personally and for all the attendees who've been there. So thank you so much, Ratnasagar, for opening up this fantastic platform where so many of us can come together as a community, as a biradari, and have conversations on education, something that we've never done earlier because we lived in sort of strange ivory towers. I would also like to thank Sugat, the absolutely young and dynamic MD of this company, along with Samriddhi and all the wonderful young people I see who are a team of Ratnasagar. As I told Atiya, that probably she chooses them not only by the way they think, but also by the way they look. So a fantastic team here. Thank you very much for that. I want to just quickly, before I sort of introduce you to all these wonderful principals here who are from across so many states, I would like to say that, you know, the way that the Industrial Revolution evolved, the pedagogies evolved. And so, because, you know, I was thinking that one of the topics here was competing in a new world. So I was just, I mean, there is a different concept that one of my colleagues will be talking about when they're talking about competing in a new world. But I think I would like to put into perspective the new world of the various educations. So it started off, of course, as early as 1740 with the Industrial Revolution, and then it became 1.0. And then we're coming into education 2.0, 3.0. 3.0 was the coming in of computers. And education 4.0 was when communication and connectivity became huge. The whole technology debate became huge. And that was that is a very important point. And then this is where you have the whole idea of augmented reality and virtual reality, and you have artificial intelligences and so on. But I would like to make a very important point. We are currently in the throes of amalgamation of 4.0 and 5.0. Because 5.0 is about humanizing technology. And that's where we have to focus on. How do we humanize this monster that has been released, which in a way has helped us in so many different ways during these difficult times that we've had in these 3 months. And we've done it to the best of our capabilities. But having said that, it's a huge sort of thinking machine that has happened. So how do we create that cosmic dance between man and machine? How do we not become competitors of the machine, but become partners of the machine? We don't try to beat the machine, but we try to evolve along with that machine. And I think that's a very integral part of how we have to look at technology. Because even as I'm speaking, the CBSE has already made out its statement and is going to the court because they have to talk to them about how they are planning to do the assessment of the board exams. And perhaps if it was technologically viable, we could have got the answers for the board without putting the children through so many issues. So we have to really think at learning in a huge blend of technology and sort of understanding in terms of, what shall I say, offline learning. Now, there are just quick 5 points I would like to make, which I think are very essential. That we have to remember that today we have to learn anything and not necessarily something. Because the way that careers are panning out, all sorts of things will have to be learned by us. Yes, we need to micro-credential if we need to do something very specific. But by and large, children have to be encouraged to look at complete interdisciplinary spaces. I think that's very, very important. The second thing is that we have to look very carefully at the whole understanding, not only of STEAM, but of STEM. Because of STEM, but of STEAM. Because we need to have arts in a very big way. Because today, more than ever, along with technology, we need to have collaboration and we need to have a certain amount of humanization of the way we're looking at tech. So I think that's very, very essential. The third thing is that we have to develop potential. We have to develop imagination in people. We have to develop a kind of a harmony in how do we bring in creativity and how do we make innovative pedagogies. If you're simply going to do a video and PowerPoint of the content and put it up to children online, we have failed. What are we doing? This is a great opportunity for us to go forward and do things. And we have to look at the way we look at lifelong learning, which Toffler spoke about, improving mindsets and mind skills. And of course, we have to train teachers for this. As for the vaccine, it is test, test, test. For the vaccine, for teachers, for the new pedagogies, it is train, 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 and train further. So on that note, there are so many wonderful educators that I have with me. The first conversation I will open out is with the topic for discussion is online sports. And it's interesting how the sports also will have to be looked at because social distancing is diametrically opposite to how sports is going to be panning out. So what are the ways we're going to look at sport? Wellness? Are we going to look at yoga? Are we looking at personalized sports like athletics? Or maybe like skipping or table tennis or badminton or essentially individualized sports, and yet how do we do communicative sports? So I think for this and much more, I now request one of my wonderful principal friends and panelists, Mr. Sharat Sharma from the Ahimsa International School in Dhule, Maharashtra, who has been working very closely with the CBSE for several initiatives, and I'm hoping that he's going to share his thoughts on us for how is he going to be looking at these online modules for sports, or what is the future of sports in this country in schools with this huge sort of blend of offline and online learning. Over to you, Mr. Sharat Sharma.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Amita, madam, and good afternoon to everyone. Hello, all the educators who are present here in this webinar. First of all, I would like to thank Ratna Sagar and Atiya madam and Amita madam for such a nice introduction of me. And let me brief about my school first because everyone should know where I am located. I am actually located at the small town which is called Tondaicha. It is in Dhule district, and we are surrounded by the borders of 3 states, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. And it is a rural area where in the particular my town around 80,000 people live and around 2 lakh people dwell every day from surrounding area. And it is a very famous city. My town particular is very famous for red chilies. So mirchi ki garmahat hai abhi. Right now the harvesting took place, and as this COVID is spread entire things were locked down. A poem I just, because my topic is sports, how we are looking forward for sports in this lockdown period, and how we are going to see the sports after this COVID period, and how people will be reacting, because before some time we were discussing that many people, madam from Pune was telling ki many people or many parents reaching to us and they are telling us ki, for a year we are not going to send our child to school. We are making the same requests are received by us, especially for the children who are studying in play group, pre-primary and first second. So these are the things that we have, the challenges now, and this disease is now in which condition you are well aware about it. What I want to say, I will start this speech of mine with a poem. I just modified that poem. COVID, COVID, go away, go away, go away. Little Johnny want to play. COVID, COVID, go away. So now, हमारे बच्चे, our children are at home since last 4 months, and what is their present lifestyle? What is their present lifestyle? The screen time is more. Screen time means they are spending more time in front of TV or in front of computer or in front of mobile. They are playing PUBG or any other games. PUBG is the most popular now among all the children, and they are doing that. Some of them are watching YouTube videos. But in that particular time period, what is the importance of a sport and why we are running the sports? You all are very well aware of it. Why we are running the sports in our schools? It develops teamwork, leadership qualities, sportsman spirit, competitiveness, and there are many more. Physical fitness is the most important thing that we are looking forward for. And Ayush Mantralaya is releasing the guidelines for making everyone fit, physically fit especially. And online sports, what I can say, individual sports like chess, individual sports, individual sports, what I can say, like chess, they can play online, they can learn online, they can have classes online. But what about the team games? What about the team events? Okay, physically they can be fit, but at home everyone is not. Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting many comments that they cannot hear me, but my voice is actually very loud and clear. So
yes, sir, you're audible, sir. Please
yeah,
continue.
okay.
Thank you.
Because many
We
comments
can
I
hear
am getting.
Ji, ji.
So this is going to be a big challenge how we can engage, because the children cannot move outside. The parks are closed. Even some fitness centers are also closed. Gyms are also closed. Schools are also closed. Many things are there that we are looking forward. But हमारे लिए what is important now? To make them physically fit. If they are at home, what is their posture? If you have seen, they are just lying on the bed, they are eating something. Majority of the people are, we have seen during this lockdown period, that many food videos and all these things, cooking videos are being watched many times, and people are sharing कि हमने आज ये बनाया, what that we have put out, वो बहुत सारा चला है. But now what happened ki the children are like that, they are having they have changed their eating habits, sluggish life, obesity is reaching to them very closely, and there are many disorders that they are going to face, and these disorders are related to eyes, and mental health also is somewhere depleting day by day with this particular increasing the screen timing. So all these are the challenges that we are facing. So to remove that particular thing, what we have done here, because in particular my area, people are from a rural background as well as urban background, and good talent is there for the sports. People are interested in sports, they want to play, they want to compete with others. and that enthusiasm we find among the children here. It is everywhere, but in particular my area I found, because the rural talent is exclusive. That is the reason why this Khelo India games and all these are being introduced to find out the rural talent, or the talent lies in India, actual, which is the proper India. It is like lying there. Now, what we are doing, we are actually promoting them to perform some yoga practices. Since last 2 months, we are doing that. Whenever our teachers are taking online classes through Zoom, what they are doing at the beginning of the lecture of them, they are making them practice some yoga exercise, especially the breathing exercise they are doing. And for that particular thing, they are sitting in front of the camera. The students are also being asked to on the camera, and on the video of them, and they are doing that. So yoga is a good substitute, in my opinion, that they can have. Some of the teachers, means especially the sport teachers, what they are doing, they are sending them on their WhatsApp groups or their class groups some special exercise which is related to their sports. For example, if the students are of martial art, if we will talk about the martial art, then a big challenge is there. They have to come closer and very close to very close. They have to come to each other to fight for the bout. So
Mr. Sharma, I'm so sorry
yeah,
to bother you like this, Mr. Sharma.
yeah,
If I may just
yeah,
intervene. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I mean, you're making such important points, but you know, there's so many more. I'd like your points to be taken up during the question and answer. So
Okay.
would you please give your concluding remarks, sir? I'd be very grateful.
Okay. The time.
Thank
we
you
are
very
running
much.
short. Okay, we are running short of time. Sorry
Thank
for
you,
that. Okay.
Thank you. Not at all.
Okay, give me 2 minutes more then.
Perhaps 1 minute, you could do 1 minute.
Okay. I'll conclude in 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I don't want to harass you like this.
Okay, no problem. So these are the things, means yoga may be the good substitute. Now I would like to go for the post-COVID, what challenges we are going to face post-COVID, means when the schools will open, we will have to, means leadership has to play a big role. What risks we are going to face? First, physical closeness of the players. So that is the big, that is going to be the big challenge. Amount of necessary touching, because players are sharing their goods, their equipment, their gears. Size of the team, if the size is big, then the risk is big, because we will have to see the risk over it. And many big things are there that we have to see, and we will have to plan. SOPs are to be designed by the leaders so that they can fight against this. And there are many points that I have noted down. If someone will ask them, and definitely I'm going.
I think that'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would be requesting Ratna Sagar to maybe take the points that you've made and
Yeah.
send it
Sure.
over, because and I just want to tell you that was a fantastic deliberation, especially when you brought in the whole idea of, you know, immunity and the
Yeah.
development of immunity, which I think is so essential, and you said it
So
so wonderfully
essential.
well. And the whole idea of social distancing when we open up, and how do we look at gadgets. Thank you very much for a very
Thank you.
informative session.
Because
very,
many
very
more,
wonderful.
many
Thank
more
you
to
so
be
much.
spoken.
Sure.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. The next topic that we're going to be talking about is the emotional hand-holding of teachers. And before I bring on the second panelist for the day, I would just like to think of the 3 Qs that we look at. We don't even look at now it's also about the emotional quotient, social quotient, and the adversity quotient. Because it's the adversity quotient which will get us off this whole thing and make us overcome what this whole COVID is. And how do we embed this into our children, into our curriculum? And how do we make it an important part of 21st century skilling with empathy, collaboration, and such? For this, I think the best person to be telling us something about this would be Ms. Smita Kshirsagar. She's an extremely experienced founder principal and educational consultant of Blue Ridge Institutional Group of Schools. And she has decades of experience not only as an educator par excellence, but she's highly committed to learning and to deliberate upon this issue. I look forward to your conversation, Smita. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
I did. Thank you, Amita, and hello, everyone. This is Meeta Kshirsagar from Pune. And I really thank Ratna Sagar, and Shalvi was the one who started communicating with me. I thank Atiya ji as well as Amita. The way you're moderating, Amita, I must say it's really very highly energetic and, power-packed.
I have people like you here, Smita. I have people like you here, so I have to.
Yeah, and Sharad sir, thank you for whatever you said. It was good. About the emotional hand-holding of teachers is particularly what I'll be. See, the emotional hand-holding is required by everyone. We are all human beings and none of us is devoid of emotions. So all, and particularly our fraternity, where we deal with livestock, we deal with children, with parents, and children being so close to the hearts of the parents and also to the teachers, the emotional involvement is much higher than any other field, I would say. So the hand holding of teachers is the particular thing which I would like to emphasize, because what happens is there are a lot of things which are being said and done for children. बच्चों को इस तरह से पढ़ाओ, बच्चों को ऐसा करो वैसा करो, everybody going around telling teachers and always joke कि teachers और educationists को छोड़ के बाकी दुनिया को मालूम होता है कि अच्छी तरह से कैसे बच्चों को पढ़ाना है, right? So what happens is in the whole process, many a times we forget that the teacher also similarly has come up in a certain kind of experiential living. And she's been conditioned in that way. So it's very important that that conditioning, which is not good for the teacher's emotional quotient, has to be undone. And we need to motivate the teacher. We need to empower the teacher. We need to give them the tools with the help of which they can develop themselves, become more confident on. So what we do in our school is 3 different levels which we follow. That's what I generally follow. One is the infrastructure, which plays a very important part, कि अगर खुला है, lot of light and lot of ventilation, that automatically becomes a mood lifter. The second thing is about the, of course, infrastructure हर किसी के हाथ में तो नहीं है, but whatever you have, you can have sessions for the teachers to see that, they also get an opportunity to go out and to play. You can organize various competitions for the teachers. Now, during the lockdown, particularly what we've done is, in the first place, I taught all the teachers, not me, of course, my IT team. I am very good in, after 35 whole years of my experience, the first time this year I started going online for meetings and all. But then the IT team, we trained all the teachers how to use the technology. We told them it's okay to commit mistakes. It's okay. You might commit a mistake once, but with time, with time, you'll be able to do that. We first empowered them, and we have taken a very slow pace of online teaching in our school, keeping in mind the stress it would cause to the teachers, because we all teachers are live performers. We have always been in a real classroom with real children there in front. Suddenly going offline, it was also equally emotionally traumatic for us. That not seeing the child, not being able to give that pat on the back, not being able to give that real smile, eye to eye contact and all. So that is taken care. Then the facility wise, the facilities, if they are given really well to the understanding their difficulties. Many a times what I've observed is when we become seniors, then we tend to forget our early days. So whenever any new teacher says that, ma'am, I'm new, I said, okay, even I was new on day one. So that kind of connect between the team, we deliberately build it. I tell my team that if you have to have a good work atmosphere, it all is within your control. Now, if you decide, you can have a good work atmosphere. If you don't, you won't have it. So then allowing them to have an open dialogue with everybody around. We always give assurance that we elders are here to take care of you. Lastly, this time, particularly in the lockdown, what I did is I gave them an activity where they had to unleash their potential. Unleash their potential means there are so many to-do lists which we had, and this sudden lockdown gave us a holiday which we had, never expected. So initially we got a little more time for ourselves. So I told them that whatever you wanted to do all these years, but you couldn't do it now. Either click a picture or write about it or take a video and send it to us. And we had it published in the newspaper. So that gave a lot of impetus to the teachers. So now the next set of teachers is ready with whatever they wanted to do. So they making them feel belonged, making them feel important, giving them assurance that we seniors and elders are there for you in this time, I think are the most important thing which we should be taking care of. Rather than just telling the teacher that, you have to do this, you have to do that. How do they do? Where is their drawback and how can they improve on the drawbacks? That is most important of all, which I feel. So once they know that it's okay to commit mistakes, because we all accept that nobody likes to make mistakes. If we happen to make mistakes, it's all, it is a mistake. Like that's how it's called. It's not deliberate. So it's okay as long as it is corrected and one learns from one's mistakes and improves. So I think.
Thank you. That was, Smita,
Yeah.
that was absolutely fantastic. And I loved the fact that I wouldn't mind being in your school actually, with somebody
Sorry?
who's as compassionate as you are. I said, I'd love to be in your school as a teacher because you come
Oh.
across as a very compassionate educator and you have set a kind of an emotional compass. And I'm sure that you run a very happy team because I've been listening so closely to the way that you connect with people. So fantastic. Thank you so much for those words, which we'll take back
Yeah.
with us. Thank you again.
Thank
for that.
you, Amita.
The
I would just say one thing. Thank you so much for the praise. We only have 150 staff members and we have more than 3,000 students,
Wow.
and we are all a big happy family. Because I believe in happiness.
Good for that. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Our next speaker will be speaking on competing in a new world. And before I bring our next speaker onto the platform, I think we have to actually start surviving. Otherwise, we'll become dinosaurs. Are we going to be in competition with companies like Khan Academy? Are we going to be in competition with WhatsApps? Because more and more, as learning is going to be synchronous, asynchronous, if it's going to be project-based, if it's going to be based on hybrid learning, flipped classrooms, and app-based, we may then suddenly lose our spaces. Are we going to lose our spaces to these outside vendors? So I think this is something that we have to really look at and think about, because we need to create pedagogies where our children connect with us in a different way, as mentioned by my earlier speaker, Smita. Emotional connect has to be made. Only then will they be connected with us on this online process. And so for that and more, I'm now going to request our next speaker for the day, Mr. Manan Choksi. He is the director of the Uddham School and Zebar schools in Ahmedabad and has received various awards for the kind of contributions he's done in this field. So with no delay, I now request Mr. Choksi to take the platform. Mr. Choksi.
Thank you. I would like to thank you for the wonderful pre-speech that helps my speech become relevant. When I would start with one example. When Coca-Cola entered India, Pepsi was here since 5 years or more. With they had a tie-up with Tata Group, Leher Pepsi. So when Coca-Cola entered India, they bought over Thumbs Up, and then the CEO was asked this question: "What is your competition?" They everybody wanted to hear that they will say that Pepsi is our number one competitor, but the fact of the matter was he started that our number one competitor was Limbu Pani. The second biggest competitor was chai. Third was buttermilk, and the fourth was at a far Pepsi. The reason what we are, as you know, as humans, what we understand is that we have apple to apple comparison. So what we think is our number one competitor is a school next door. You know, we try to beat them. That we want to give education better than our next door school. But like ma'am said, she's then started talking about apps. Then we talked about Khan Academy, which is like a sort of autonomous learning. The other thing what we are going uh, in the line with we are going is that we are forgetting substitutes like chai and Coca-Cola. How they are, if you want a hot beverage, why would you take a cold beverage? Both of them are refreshing. You know, if you look at the principal requirement of a beverage, then if you look at the principal requirement of a education or engagement, you know, most people want their children to be engaged while the parents are busy earning money or doing their own work or dealing with the challenges of life they have. So what happened here is that we are looking at engagement, and our competition in engagement is not just this is not just the learning apps or the mobile apps, but it is also say Cartoon Network, say something, friends playing, taking children outside, taking on vacation. So what we need to do is, as educators, what bigger challenge what I see is that we right now at a click of a button they can switch off our lectures and they can go and watch the TV, and you cannot do anything about it. But if we make
Mr. Choksi, could you just wait for a minute, Mr. Choksi? Somebody has got their audio on and it's really feeding into what, because you're saying some very important things. Could we all put off our audios because it's interfering with this very interesting speech that Mr. Choksi is giving us? Somebody could just see that it's too much of sound. Thank you, please. Please, Mr. Choksi. Please carry on. Yeah, can you please carry on?
Maybe it is my audio only, so I'll just put this headset kit. Okay. Yeah. So so what the problem has happened is that we have to make our lectures very, very interesting. We have to engage children in such a manner that it is not only improving their academics, but is also improving, is keeping them, they don't like Cartoon Network. So what is the different thing what teachers can do? I have a very simple suggestion for this. What a simple different thing what teachers can do is they can make, there is some connect with the students which nobody else has. These apps do not have that. This online teaching module they do not have. And this connect is like looking at the children's, like each child's level of knowledge. They have to suit their learning accordingly. So in this, what happens is, for example, in online, there is this wonderful way of getting an online test done and seeing which question most of the students have failed. Okay, and then accordingly again take a class for the question which most have failed. This is very difficult for, I would say, a mass learning channel. Like government is planning a channel with TV that whether they can teach students with TV. That they cannot do what teachers can do. So teachers, I think, should pull up their socks and let us see that this is going to stay long. It is not going to get over in a minute. even if it gets over, even if tomorrow we have this vaccine, tomorrow if we have a cure and schools start working, the point is that what we need to do is we need to find out what is our classroom structure, what people already know, and then take up in addition to that, what people don't know, we have to start building foundation from there. Or if again take a post test and see where they have lacking, and if there are particular students who are failing miserably, give them personal care and attention. This will set us apart, and this we can beat our competition, which our competition is of course varied from all places. And trust me, if you are able to do that, there are a lot of places where education is not been able to reach in this traditional conventional method, but online education can reach. So what we need to focus on is how can we get more students in online, even though they're from our school, how they can attend more online, how can they get good results online, after studying online, how they get good results. And parents should be engaged. So if one day a child does not want to study in school, even though they are fine, that is our threat. That is a good time wake up call, and we should see what remedial action we need to do so that students find the interest back in our classes. Okay, so that is it from my side, and I will take up more questions later on. Yeah.
Thank you. I must tell you, Manan, that you said some very, very important things which are so essential to this discourse. Because I think when you talked about assessments, and this is what, even when there have been meetings in the MHRD and amongst communities, for assessment communities, we have been committees, sorry, we have been talking about the fact that if AI could be brought in such a manner so that evaluation, paper setting, assessments, making mark sheets and tracking performance of each student, it can be conducted with much less effort. If this is done, then through that, the teachers will at least be able to concentrate on bettering themselves, on improving their content transaction, on their aptitude development and such. I think a dashboard should be created in every school where they find out what is it that they have and what is it that they need. And I think this is what you were talking about. Thank you so much for that very, very interesting discussion that you were having right now. And again, I would now like to call on the platform our next speaker. But before that, I just would like to introduce you the topic that he'll be speaking on, and that is parental perspectives. And I think the entire view of schooling has to now change and has to be focused on the way the parents are looking at us, because the home has now become school, and in a certain sense, the school has taken on a sort of a space of the home. And there's a lot of unstructured time that parents have to deal with children, which they were not doing it earlier. And so there's a lot of anxiety on how they deal with it. How do they deal with children who are from special needs? How do they deal with regular children? How do you sort of focus and work through activities which all this while the school was doing? So there are so many issues, and I think parents today require a great deal of support in how they have to, because as very rightly Manan said, this is not going to go away in a hurry. It's going to be there, and there will be a life at the end of the tunnel. But at the end of the day, the parents are our main stakeholders in this, and their emotional health is extremely important to us. So for taking up this topic, I now introduce to you a very compassionate educator, and Dr. Nicholas Correa. He's the Executive Director and Principal of New Horizon Public School in Navi Mumbai. It's a group of schools, it is a chain of CBSE schools, and he's helped to establish some of the finest CBSE and ICSE schools across the country. He's always had a very unique approach in management skills and so on. And so I'm sure that, and I've just read a wonderful article that you've written, and I think it is so bang on. So I would like you now to tell us, how should we scaffold all this and bring it onto the sort of surface where parental support or parental development is concerned. Nicholas?
So thank you, Mrs. Amita. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Satya and Ratna Sagar for giving me this opportunity to be in this esteemed panel. COVID-19 pandemic has proved everything around us so temporary. It has sparked a global realization that current way of life doesn't work. It has broken our perception of what is normal. No one knows how long the virus is going to be here. It may disappear like SARS, or wave again in winter, or stay like a seasonal flu. Parents who have school-going children are restless. We can't stop here, we have to move ahead. Yesterday, in Sunday Times, carried an article with the title, Parenting During Pandemic, and 4 families expressed wonderful ways, the lessons they learned during this quarantine period. If I look at COVID-19 from parents' perspective, there are 5 aspects attached to it. First, schooling or education. Second, health. Third, influence of media or social media. Fourth, psychological issues. Last, finance or economy. Schooling from home or virtual schooling is a new normal across the globe. Many feel it is just like working from home. It's not so, it's not true. Many parents individually face varied issues. Unlike the physical classes, many of the issues are not resolved as one wants. Hence, some parents feel teachers are not competent. It may be true in many cases. However, one must accept the fact it's a new normal even for teachers. Teachers are trained, professionally trained for the physical schooling and not for virtual schooling. They too are trying their best. We must accept that all sections of society are in the same troubled sea, but sailing through different boats. We must sail through cooperating with each other and not combating. Next aspect, health. Parents feel highly insecure about the safety and health of their children, not only once the schools are going to shortly reopen, but also even now. Now, most of the parents have either only one child or 2 children. They do not want the kids to become victim of COVID-19 or lose them. They also know quarantine has been making the kids susceptible to poor health. Taking all necessary precautions, we can go for walking, jogging, cycling, do yoga, meditation, and so on. Next important aspect, influence of media or social media. Media is doing a good job during this turbulence, giving information and updates. At the same time, the news channels and social media is fighting an undeclared war with the sentiments of parents and people at large by telecasting same news repeatedly or flooding the post in the social media accounts. Most of this news telecast carry only half truth, and the posts which are posted are unverified and without base. It is creating extreme negativity in the minds of parents and people at large. As an educator, today I feel the job of thinking is outsourced to media and social media. We react to the news or the post in the social media instead of acting. We must verify or analyze or apply reason to this. Next important aspect, psychological issues. Due to the impact of pandemic, millions of children and even the parents fight a psychological war with themselves. The social media even making it worse. Many are expressing or not expressing their anxieties. Many express their feelings on WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram, and refrain from expressing with each other. These issues are leading to psychological and emotional imbalance. Psychologically speaking, words have tremendous power. They create an impact on our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Stop needlessly using words like corona, depression, and constantly watching news and social media posts. Frequently use positive words and thoughts like we can, it's possible, I'm strong, I'm happy, I'm healthy, etc. And side by side. Exercising and meditation can create a blend of physical, emotional, and psychological balance. Next important aspect, finance or economy. The lockdown has absolutely dwindled the economy of the globe. Joblessness is increasing, retrenchment is increasing. That doesn't mean there is no hope. Every cloud has a silver lining. I don't understand much about economics or finance, but during this troubled time, we try to save every penny. Saving is always good. However, not spending money where necessary would make our problems worse because everything is interconnected. We should allow circulation of money in the market. Otherwise, there will be recession. Circulation of money is just like the blood circulation in our body. Though it is difficult, I feel we should not stop paying our bills.
Could you give your concluding remarks, sir? Could you give your concluding remarks?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
However, we can we can request for increasing the installments, or we can ask other ways. So this will help the economy move forward. Thank you.
I must say that was a very impassioned discussion, or I wouldn't call it a discussion, but a very impassioned conversation that you were having. And I like the points that you made, because you sort of wove in all the aspects of what it is to sort of, you know, what is it that makes parent take or not take? What does it make the developmental areas of the school take? And I think you said the absolutely right thing about finance, because you're right, because, you know, there are issues coming up of non-payment of fees now in schools. And we have to really tighten our belts, as you rightly said, because the three very important things that we need to know is about communication, technology, and sanitation. And communication is again with the parent and the child. Sanitation, you know, is self-apparent. And technology, of course, we have no choice, but we have to take it forward. So that was great. And I know that this recording is happening, because I'm sure that if this recording is all over the place, there's a lot that we will learn, and there's a lot that parents will learn from the discourse that you have just given. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Our next speaker for the day will be speaking on reaching out. And I think that's great, because she's going to be reaching out to the community, reaching out to the school, reaching out to stakeholders, which has become so essential today. Because I do believe that whenever there is uncertainty, you must over communicate. You must talk to people all the time. And I think that this particular pandemic, if nothing else, it has done a lot more. Why am I saying nothing else? It's done so much more, that it has connected us technologically. It has also made us reach out to people. I know that principals are writing letters and circulars and are having their meetings and the parent-teacher meetings all across. In fact, all sorts of involvement is happening, which perhaps never happened earlier. And there is more connect, because you're actually working 24/7. There's no question of a holiday when you're online. And so that is itself a big reaching out. So for that, I'm going to now request Ms. Seema Gupta, who is the principal of the Universal High School in Ahmedabad. She comes to us with a lot of experience and with a lot of thoughts that she has for this. So will this now, Seema Gupta, please come to us to speak on reaching out.
Ma'am, she's from Aurangabad.
Aurangabad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, from Aurangabad. Beg your pardon.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Nice to be a part of this excellent gathering of educationists over here. Would like to thank Ratna Sagar and Atiya ma'am for giving this kickstart to this webinar, and Amita ma'am for conducting this webinar. Going on well, and it was nice listening to all the speakers over here, all the school leaders over here. A very good afternoon to all of you. This pandemic has forced us to home confinement and social distancing. This pandemic has forced all of us to be at home, and you won't believe we are facing n number of challenges today. I hope you all agree with me. As the school leader today, I feel as an actor wherein the story has changed, the script has changed, and the costume has changed, and I have to perform. The performance is still going on, and I'm on the stage, and I need to perform. And I need to see to it that I work in such a way that I work efficiently, I work effectively. Now, when it comes to this, we have to act as a bridge, whether it's talking about the school leaders, whether it's talking in terms of the educationists or the teachers. We need to act as a bridge. And that's why I talk in terms of reaching out. When it comes to reaching out, I'm talking in terms of reaching out to the stakeholders. Now, all the stakeholders, when I talk about the first one, which comes in my mind is our students. The students are forced to be at home, which they haven't been, right? And today they are confined at home. They are not having connected with they are not getting connected with their friends. They are at home with their parents throughout the day. And it may happen that, that young minds rebel. And if they're not able to cope up with the situation, the depression may be there. And it becomes our responsibility as an educationist to reach out to these children. No doubt, we all have started with the online classes when it comes to taking into consideration the scholastic and the co-scholastic part. But I think we need to give our children the life lessons, very important, through the life skill classes, through, one-to-one contact, so that our first stakeholder are taken care of and we are able to reach our students and we keep connected with them. The second stakeholders, very important, the parents. Today, our children, our students are with them throughout the day. And we need to convince our parents, we need to convince them that you are the best and the most important teacher for your child. And I think the parents are the best person to know the taste, the liking, the fear of their children better than us. And we need to get in touch with those parents and tell them that you can do wonders. You can, be in touch with your child and see to it that he doesn't misses out on anything. So that is talking in terms of reaching out to the parents. The third important stakeholder are teachers. Teachers, I must say that they are the warriors. They have, faced the challenges. The challenge which was forced given the situation, they were not trained for this online classes. Secondly, they are at home with all the family members, abundance of work, and still they have, succeeded in facing this challenge. And today they are standing tall and trying to solve every problem. So as a school leaders, I think that it becomes our responsibility to support them, as some of the panelists pointed out. We need to support our teachers, we need to support our students, we need to support our parents. And we need to reach out to them. At this given situation, this new normal which we talk about, in this new normal, we need to get connected and keep connected with this, because we are a bridge between the school and on the other hand, the three stakeholders, the parents, the students, and not the least, the teachers. So we need to be connected with them, and we need to see to it that whatever support we can give to our students, to our teachers, and to our parents, we need to give it to them, so that we come out of this, and when we come back to the school, we are still connected and we are well connected with all our stakeholders. I hope you all agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was absolutely wonderful. That was absolutely wonderful. And some very, very practical tips that you were giving us. And I think you're absolutely right. The way that you talked about connecting to parents, connecting to the student community, and the way that we should be with them. And I think that will go a long way in developing relationships. That was absolutely smashing, Seema. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Seema was the last speaker for the day, and there's some very interesting questions that have come up. In fact, I could take up one and ask any of my panelists to ask that question. And Dr. Wilfred she's from the Era Model School and Junior College, Talwadi, wants to have some kind of, throw some kind of light on how do you look at rural, learning? Because there, whether it's an androgynous phone or other phones, very difficult to connect with children because the connections are very difficult. So is there anybody in the panelists who would like to take this take this question up? Anybody from the panel would like to answer? How do you look at rural education vis-a-vis technology? Dr. Nicholas Correa, would you like to answer that? And then Seema ji can come in later. Yes. Dr. Nicholas Correa, would you like to answer?
Sure. I think it's comparatively for urban areas, we have got various opportunities and connectivity. When it comes to rural, the connectivity is poor. If you go through CBSE, latest CBSE, alternative calendar, that has given a lot of activities for rural areas, not only rural areas, across the country. Various projects, how we can connect with the children, parents. It's not necessary. Everything has to be done only through virtual schooling. We can give them a projects. Maybe those projects, maybe definitely it has to go in one way or the other place through online. But thereafter, instead of conducting online classes for them, so they can do those projects on the topics and they can be given that time and the return back, those projects can be corrected by the teachers. And same way, art integration. They can integrate art and learn. They have got various topics in the syllabus. These topics can be integrated. Yesterday, for example, there was solar eclipse. I found so many children keeping water, a bowl of water and looking at the sun. This is an actual way of applying science. Same way, the lessons which are there in the textbook, in the rural areas, definitely we can do that. And also conducting various games, especially when it comes to language. There are n number of games. If you see CBSE circular, now we have got, I think, every state has to connect with some other state, like in Maharashtra, we have to connect with the state of Orissa. Their art, culture, everything has to be learned. And people from Orissa, they have to learn what is good in Maharashtra. This is interconnect. It may not be done everything through online, everything through virtual schooling. Even otherwise, through books, through the support of parents, through the support of elders, the teaching or the work can go on.
Thank you. That was excellently done. Seema, would you like to put in something that Dr. Correa has not spoken of? Would you?
Yes, sure, Amita.
Yeah,
when it comes to this, no doubt, we feel that in the urban area, all these hiccups are not there and we are well connected with our children. They have the resources which are needed. But when it comes to the rural area, I think the radio and the television, they are one of the sources which can be used in the rural areas to connect with the children. And the CBSE has also come up with lots of things which are already available. So if the schools are not able to go online, at least these resources can be made available to the children, and the children can have a not regular schooling, but at least we can try to reach the students.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. There's another, sorry, somebody wants to say something? Yeah. Yes, Chief, please.
No,
please.
Mr.
Please.
Sharma is from, his school is in a rural area. Mr.
Would you like to comment? Mr. Sharma would like to comment?
Mr. Sharma? Disconnect because of the rural area.
Doesn't matter. So we have now, there's a friend of mine who I can see. She's from King's College in Goa. King's College in Goa, Lydia Pereira, who wants to know about, should there be fixed timings on the for online learning? What should it be like? And then where does the whole communication with parents and their perspective and all that go? Should that time be used for that, or there should be fixed timing for online, or should it be flexible? Mr. Choksi, would you like to take that?
Yes. So one of the important deliverables of online education is helping children establish a routine. And that is the reason why we need to fix a timetable, maybe 1 hour or maybe 2 hours. duration is not that important. Actually, it should not be 5 hours or 6 hours. It should be 1 or 2 hours. And another important aspect is that every day the child should get something to do on their own. So online or distance education, see, I'm a CA. Most of my professional education has been done distance learning. I had this big book and a room and a table to study with, and I was self-motivated. And today that only self-motivated learners become CA. They do not get daily up to compulsion from the college that come and attend. So I think we need to focus on children to establish a routine, and they need to learn on themselves. They need to do some assignments at home on their own, and then upload to the school, send it to the school so teacher can identify how much the child knows. Once the child knows, then the teacher can move ahead. So that is how I think duration should be less of online. This is asynchronous education should be more than synchronous education. And the last thing is that it has to complete a feedback loop where whatever children knows, the teacher should come to know that, okay, this is where the students are lacking. That will make classrooms interesting and productive.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sharma has joined us. Mr. Sharma, there was a question about rural, would you like to comment? Would you like to comment on that, sir? On how do we transact education on the rural platform? Because there are issues about bandwidth, there are issues about, not having gadgets.
Yeah.
Would you please briefly comment on that?
I would like to share one experience that one parent came to me yesterday, and whatever the problem has been discussed here, bandwidth and other things. Nearby my school, 20 kilometers away, one village is there, and one parent is there, and his child is attending the online classes from our school. And he told me, sir, the network is full in our village, but less in your less at your place. So this was the report from his side, because in villages bandwidth is good, but in our place where we are located, the bandwidth is low, because many people are using that. And this is the big challenge that we are facing in online education, that bandwidth is the big problem. During the lecture, the internet connection is stopped, and after that again the teacher has to join. Some students are joining, but they are this was the problem of one village. Experience was of one village, but other villages are also having the same problem, that they are not having proper length, wavelength or bandwidth. Through that they are not capable of getting. If the teacher want to share some videos or something like that, so they are not able to, and buffering time is more for that.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. There's an interesting question that's come up. There's no name to it, but the question is that, parents find all these Byju's and all these other things much more interesting and more, so naturally, because billions of dollars have gone into creating those channels and those apps. So how do they sort of wean? Should they wean their children off that? How do you compete as a school with this ICT technologies, when on one side you have all these extremely interactive apps and learning technologies? How do you go forward with that? So would anybody like to take that question?
Yeah, I think I'll take it.
Maybe Seema, you could start it, and then we could have Manan lead on to it. Seema, please.
I think, when we go online, I think we can do, wonders over there. I think we need to train our teachers and empower them. And I think there are lots of apps, where when you are teaching and then online, you have the quizzes going on, you have whiteboard. So using these apps will help us to make it more interactive. The Byju's and all other, they are recorded classes. They are the recorded lessons. So the thing is that connectivity is not there. But when it comes to us, here we are going online, we are getting connected with the children and using these apps, so children enjoy. And the thing is, they wait for the next class the next day. So I think that can be, we need to be creative, we need to be innovative, and we need to, take our teachers into confidence and teach them, empower them so that they can do justice with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Would somebody else, Manan, you'd like to come into this?
Short comment. I would like to say that teachers can, do an informal discussion with the students, over phone regularly, the humans have been replaced in all kind of jobs where they do mechanical things. So when they use their emotion and when they use their creativity, humans have not been replaced. Like, we don't have an artificial intelligence person doing a painting as of now or writing a novel. So I think teachers need to be creative and they need to have that emotional connect with the students by phone call or by knowing them everything in and out of the student. That way students will be motivated to learn from a teacher rather than from Byju's.
Thank you. There is an interesting question. Sorry, yes, please.
Amita ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Smita ma'am would also like to comment on this question.
Surely. Smita, please.
Yeah. See, most importantly, what we need to understand that, the apps like Byju's and all, they're all one-to-one. And we have this power of having the whole class with us. And children being social animals, it's their emotional need to see their classmates and to interact. So once in a while, what we've done in our school is once in a fortnight, we have a, break party kind of, wherein the children sit with their tiffins, they come in interesting dresses, and the speakers are kept on, the children talk to each other and all, and that is what they look forward to. Another thing is we give them very interesting activities where their physical involvement is required, because the children are fed up of sitting at home. Currently in this situation, they want to move, do some movements. So lot of activities which can be done within the school. So these are a few things which can definitely help them. And school is unparalleled. Any app and anything, this is just a time being, just a phase. Schools cannot be compared with any of the learning apps.
It cannot replace.
I just want to, since you're already here, Smita, I want to ask you a question which has come up, where the attendee wants to know, the participant, teacher or principal wants to know that, suppose parents are not there in the home and children are by themselves, how do we make them self-dependent to study? Because that may be a possibility now, because all children are not going to come back together even when schools open. And parents have to go out to earn their livelihoods, all the more. So how do you make, and since you are a person who talks a lot on the emotional quotient, so would you please make some comments, and anybody else can enter if they want to add some more to Smita's statement, please.
Yeah, so we have ensured that, because when the teacher made her first interaction with the children online, we don't have too many online classes, very few, far and few. Mostly what we do is there are PPTs with audio presentations, which they can access according to their convenience, because again, the connectivity and all. But when the teacher spoke to them, or when I spoke to the parents, I spoke to the children in the last 5 minutes, and I said that your teachers are very proud of you. They're very sure that you're going to be wonderful kids and you're going to do all your work on your own. Is that true? And the children were motivated. And the same thing the teacher reiterated. See, for children, it's very, very important that you have a direct heart-to-heart connect, and you tell them exactly like we need to motivate teachers. Teachers need to motivate the children, that I'm very sure you are my smart children, and I'm so sure that you're going to do all your work independently, because the time is such, and your parents have to go out, and you and me have to be there for your parents. So that kind of a talk and that kind of assurance from the teacher brings around things like anything. We've done it earlier also when we had regular school, and now also it's working well. We get feedback from parents where they say that the children are eager to do the work which the school has put forth. So I think the connect of the teacher, a little more frequent connect of the teachers. We also create small videos or small audios and we relay them, wherein time and again the teacher says that it's okay if the parents are not at.
Right. Thank you for that. There's another question coming up for you, Manan, and everybody's very interested in knowing about this. How do we take this online assessment And how do you sort of blend it? And how do you take on online assessment? Because, online assessment is actually a huge issue today. Because, except for MCQs, OMRs, there are certain colleges, there are certain IITs which are coming out with them, where we're looking, but then why do we need to do summative assessment at all? Why can't we make it conceptual? So would you like to make some comments on online assessment, please, Manan?
Yes, so we have a lot of online assessment options right now in the market. A simple thing would be a Google form and a Google or a Microsoft. We use MS Teams, so we use Microsoft Forms. We need to understand that the problem is we think that it is an exam. Actually, it is not an exam for the student. It is an assessment of how we are teaching. If we complete in that mindset, then what we make a question in the manner that the options are very, very much close what people usually have misconceptions with. Okay, and when we put out that 5 questions that will, or maybe 10 questions, they can answer in like 10 minutes. And the best part is we will know how many have cleared the concept and how many have not. So the idea of online assessment is if you look it from your how much children have understood rather than how much how good you are a teacher and how much children have understood rather than whether they know it or not. Because when they know it, it leads to cheating and all that. Okay, so there are a lot of options where there is auto proctoring also, which is costing. It's a very costly exam where the child's screen is recorded, video is recorded, audio is recorded along with the exam, and then this costs about 80 rupees a exam, 80 rupees an hour per child. So it is a bit costly thing. Probably in semester end exam or maybe year end exam you can take it, but otherwise we need to do short assessments where there is no motivation of cheating, and then we need to do it frequently. And then if we do it question wise analysis, which all MS forms and Google Forms give, we can know what is the weak point. So the idea, so understand, it is not the same routine paper and pen exam. It is a different kind of assessment. And when you do, okay, for writing, for like subjective writing in typing, what many people do is that they get a scanned thing like a photograph, and that thing is emailed to teacher. So 1 or 2 pages of subjective answers are also assessed that way.
Right. Thank you very much for that very holistic, look at online. But let me tell you that lots of work is left for online assessment. We still haven't got the hang of it. In fact, we need to understand the rubrics of online learning, which we don't have. And I think the most important thing that teachers should do and principals should do is get together in faculties and start sort of designing rubrics and look at design thinking of how we're going to look at each transaction of each subject and how we're going to go forward conceptually. On that note, there is Meenakshi Taneja, who wants to know that, what about pre-primary students? How effective is online teaching, learning teaching for them? Because some states, I think Karnataka, I think even Maharashtra has said that there should be no online teaching for children, which actually upset me a lot. And in a recent article in the Express, I wrote saying that, for God's sake, I mean, are we going to say that we make everybody illiterate together? Why can't we find some different ways and means for connecting with children who are pre-primary? It may be online, but it should be there. So any comments on this? How do you do the efficacy of pre-primary children online, and what other solutions or methods are there? Anybody can take this. Seema can take it, Smita, Manan, Mr. Sharma, whoever would like to.
You'll take it best, Amita ji.
Who's saying this? Sorry.
I'm saying it.
Seema? Seema, would you like to take it? Seema ji. Seema, come.
Yeah. What I feel is, we need to have this, like we have come up with like the government GRs and all talking about, no classes for the preschool and class 1 and 2, and then, going for 1 hour, 2 hour and 3 hour. So what I feel is that we cannot just stop this, right? We need to have this because we get connected with the children, and that's very important because the children will feel connected with the teachers. And when the school reopens, they are in touch with the studies. So very important for all of us. No doubt, it has to be more activity based. It should not be like, we can have like, we are also using the G Suite. So wherein we have, asynchronous classes. So So if we have the asynchronous classes, the screen time can be reduced and the children are still engaged with the studies. And when it comes to the preschool, no doubt, we have activity-based activity wherein the parents can play a very important role in the preschool and the primary classes. In the higher classes, children are well versed with the technology and they can do it on their own. So that's going on. So, when it comes to not having the online classes, even the children were very unhappy about it. And they were like, we want these classes. They are so happy, having these online classes, whether we talk about,
Absolutely.
they enjoy, like they keep their, video on. They are so like, we have to tell them, request them, switch off, mute yourself. So children are literally enjoying these classes and learning is going on. So I think the government need to understand that we need to have these type of classes because that's only the way we are connected with the children. And it's required at this point.
Seema, I think you're absolutely right because the policy makers have no understanding of what the teachers are really doing. They're looking at it in a very detached manner. They don't know the joy that teachers are giving to the homes when they're entering and making these little children dance and sing and show their cards and show things they've done and show their cooking. So I mean, it's so sad.
Whatever
that
they have done, we ask them, okay, show what you have learned. Okay, you have learned how to make a cake. Okay, give us the recipe.
Absolutely.
These type of interaction. Wherein we are talking about what did you do, what did you learn today, and they say that okay, we are helping parents, we are doing this, ma'am, I made this. They show it literally, so they are connected, and I think that gives them that happiness which they need.
Right. Now I just want some. Sorry, somebody wants to
add one point here.
Yes, please.
It is not the policymakers or state governments are banning. It may be the request from the number of parents. Now, what we need is convincing the parents why these classes are very important for these children to connect. The moment parents understand, maybe most of them or maybe some of them, they connect everything with fees. Or maybe we need to understand what is the necessity of conducting classes. It is not only one aspect of that. But maybe because of the pressure of the parents, maybe the pressure of n number of stakeholders, maybe the state or the state government has taken the certain decisions in Maharashtra, Karnataka, maybe some other states.
No, but Nicholas, if for 3 months you haven't been able to convince parents, you will never be able to convince them.
No,
you've had enough time to talk to parents. You should have been involved with them. So if after 3 months they're telling you that your online is all not there, I mean that's not a very happy thing for a school. So I think we have to. You're absolutely right, Nicholas. You're absolutely right.
Convince the parents. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100% you're right. And I think schools where people are convincing parents, this kind of situation is not really taking place. And you're absolutely right in that. Now, I would like some closing remarks.
Ma'am, excuse me. There's a question again regarding the same about the socio-emotional quotient of children being talked about by one of the participants that we have. She wants to know that how can we ensure that the community building that we do aggressively in the schools during a face-to-face classroom can be catered to during online teaching? Can we have some kind of community events or other options which we can encourage and inculcate so that children can have that building and bonding coming up?
So would Smita like to take that?
Yes, thank you, Amita, and that's a wonderful question from the audience. So as I had said earlier that we have these deliberate activities for community building, wherein what we have done, like another example, other than having the lunch break together, online lunch break together, the other activity which we have recently introduced is group recitation, wherein the children choose one story because it's the library day which we celebrated and library week and month. So they pick any short story, even if it's their own composition, they pick it, and 2-3 of them come together online and read it in a sync. And it's going to be an online competition where judges will be judging them. So they have this connect, even if they're not physically together, they still have this connect. And then also, there's one 7th standard group who did a dance together in sync with each other. 4 of the girls, they choreographed the dance on the same song in different lines, and they presented it and we showed it to all the students. So this is how we are working on community building. Very important. Physically, we cannot do it, but
yeah. I
think what Ma'am, I may come in 1 minute. I think what she means is like we used to have those annual festivals.
Correct.
So a school in Lucknow is
Correct.
having a festival. From all
Correct.
over the country are participating. There
Absolutely.
are 3-day jam sessions, those
Oh,
kind of
sure.
things, or exchange programs in other countries. So those things are like,
See, those cannot be done currently. What I'm talking about is the possible alternatives.
Yeah, surely. Now, I just want to tell you that we're sort of running short of time because Samriddhi also has a surprise lined up for all of us here, just as we're rounding up. I would be very grateful if each panelist right now, very, very briefly, in 30 seconds, gave what they, just something to leave behind, a mantra or a one-liner to leave behind for our attendees, for all of us who are listening. So could we start off with Dr. Korea?
Yes, as we know, this is the new normal. Let's not look at it negatively. Let's go with the hope. As I said already, every cloud has a silver lining. This is how we can go ahead, only motivating, bringing a lot of facilitation and positivity.
Thank you very much. Seema, could you be the next one? The next one, Seema?
Yes. I think we need to empower our parents, our students and teachers. And as a school leader, we have a very big responsibility to act as a bridge and try to reach out each one of them and help them as much as we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Manan, would you like to be the next person on? Manan?
Yes, we should, stop resisting, and we should start adapting whatever challenges we face. Most of the problems that I face in parents is that they are not ready to accept this reality. I think once we get over that thing, resistance, the adaptation is much easier, and things will look very positive after all.
Thank you so much. Smita, would you like to please give us your last thoughts?
Yes, it's don't worry, be happy. खुद जियो औरों को भी जीने दो, जीने की है राहें हजार.
Thank
बस
you. That's
कदम
lovely.
बढ़ाते जा.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Mr. Sharma, your last thoughts, please.
My last words are there. Challenges turn into opportunities now, and we should adapt, not adjust. That is the important thing in this particular scenario. And evolution.
Thank you. That's great. Evolution. What fantastic last thoughts we've all got from all our panelists over here. And my sort of last thoughts to everybody is that thank you so much, Ratna Sagar, for having done this brilliant platform for all of us. And I want to really salute all my rock star panelists for such fantastic interpretations, the discourse. You all were absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to take so much back from here that I'm going to use it. But of course, I will not plagiarize. I will always give you the credit and say, Smita said this and Seema said this and Nicholas said this. So all of you will be having your little moments in the sun all across. You've been absolutely brilliant. And I just want to end with the African proverb that, when you walk alone, you may walk fast. But when you walk together, you walk far. And so I think that's what we're doing together as a Biradri. If ever I can be of any help to anybody, you know where to find me. I'm in space. Thank you very much. And God bless you. And I've got to go to a very important meeting of the CBSE. So I'll be moving out. But Samriddhi is here. And Samriddhi has a surprise for all of you. Bye. Look after yourself, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, attendees. Very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks,
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all the panelists. And we have recorded this. We'll share this on YouTube. And any questions which have not been answered, we'll get back to you with those questions, with those answers. And I would like Sugat, the Managing Director of Ratna Sagar, to say something.
Ma'am, can we?
Mr. Sugat Jain.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to thank, first of all, Amita ji. I think she's just left, but I would really want to thank her for making this possible. And definitely all our distinguished panelists, because they've contributed a lot to our understanding of how we can move forward, how we can make the best of this situation given the constraints. And I really thank all the educators in the audience I apologize that we had to reschedule. We were supposed to start a bit later today, but then due to certain schedules, because of this meeting of Amita ji, we needed to reschedule. But I really appreciate everyone who's joined us at even this last minute at this rescheduled time and made this possible and made a very meaningful discussion possible. So I think there were very enlightening thoughts over here about the best part is that we get to rethink about education. We get to, in some sense, reinvent the ways we've been going about education. We've started questioning that what is necessary, what is not necessary, how can it be more meaningful, how can it be more impactful. So I think that's the great opportunity in this crisis. And I really thank all of you for making that discourse much more interesting and meaningful. Thank you so much. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for inviting us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunil Saraf, the regional manager, and Rajiv Sharma, the marketing head, and their teams. Thank you so much. Samriddhi, over to you.
Yes, thank you,
Samriddhi.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just
Yeah, your quiz question.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, that system was a little slow. Okay, so my dear educators, respected educators and the panelists, like shared by ma'am, we'll now be taking a quick poll that will be flashed on your screens. And we're going to hold that for another 30 to 40 seconds to get in your responses. So I would request you to please select the most suitable option that you have here, because this is regarding the training areas that we would like to take up post the pandemic, post the COVID-19, and once the schools are open. So I would request you to please choose the most suitable option. All 4 options are really compatible, I would say, but still please use your choicest opinion here and give us 2 most trending and most needed options here. So we're holding it for another 60 seconds. We have responses quickly coming in. So we've already reached 50% of votes. So that's okay. And as we're getting the poll, I would also request you to please stay with us, because we'll soon be flashing the QR code for feedback, and we would also be pasting it in our chat box, our comment section. So please do fill in the feedback form and share your valuable feedback with us. Okay. I think we have the poll now, ma'am. So I'll share the results quickly. So the question that we asked with the respected educators and the eminent panelists that we have here today was, in which areas do you feel training will be more necessary post-COVID-19? So we have received 54% for blended online-offline pedagogy. Coming in closely next is parent-school partnership with 32%. Then we have new leadership models and accreditation of online teaching closely bundling up at 22 and 23%. So those are the latest trends that we are seeing out there, ma'am, for the trainings that educators.
Some heartening. Offline means books will survive. Publishers will survive because it's blending of online and offline. So both books and online content will survive. That's great.
Sure, ma'am. Absolutely. So we're now sharing our screen for the QR code. We would request you to use any scanner that you have on your phone to scan the QR code, and automatically a feedback form will pop up on your system. So, and we request you to always click on the URL that we are currently pasting on chat to share your valuable feedback about today's session with us. So we're going to hold this up for another 2 minutes so that everybody can make use of it and share their feedback with us. So thank you so much, educators. Thank you so much to the entire panelists and the team Ratna Sagar for joining us today. I would request Atya ma'am to do a final closing once again, like she does it stunningly as always. So over to you, ma'am.
Final closing is this. Final closing is namaste. Before, now, and always. No handshakes, no high fives, social distancing. So namaste and salam. And thank you so much from Ratnasagar. Thank you so much for being with us. We are in it together and we'll come out of this together, stronger and closer. Have a good evening and a happier days ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for those wonderful words. And like we say it always, at Ratnasagar, education is our mission, and we are with all the educators across India to make it more insightful and more enlightening as we go along, building up a new phase of education as we evolve paradigms, as ma'am has rightly said. And then to close it, we'll just team it up with, as doctors are saving lives, we educators are shaping lives. And I think that is a beautiful thought to stay with and ensure that we go with all the passion that we have. So thank you so much once again for joining us today through Zoom and through Facebook and making this event a huge success. Thank you so much.
Thank you.